Welcome. It's a nice, happy, sunny day today. There, what's that? Amy Seukeran, Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Life Coach, Canada. How's everybody's day so far? Were you up early? What time did you wake up today? Let me get my phone and come back. $1:45. Still 15 minutes, right? Late. One of these days, I'm just going to record the videos and put them up. If you had questions, you would have asked, right? The title. There, got it? Control, gaslighting, loophole, word salad, and word manipulation. Which one of those have you heard of? Which words? Which one's popular? Control? Gaslighting? Is that popular in Malton? Is that popular around the world, gaslighting? Okay, what about loophole? Word salad? Now word manipulation. I'm doing a quick test. Do you know the difference between loophole, word salad, and word manipulation? Okay, gaslighting. Gaslighting is when a narcissist is having a conversation with who? Anybody or just you? Anybody? And gaslighting is what? When they want their way? So they'll say anything to get their way? So what kinds of things do they say to you when they're gaslighting you? Mean things, lies, hurtful things, things that they know get to you, that bother you? And how do you react to that when they're gaslighting you, the victim? You get mad, you get upset? That's a reaction, right? You can't help getting mad. If somebody's provoking you, what does that mean? If somebody's provoking you, it means they're doing it on purpose, over and over and over again, to get what kind of reaction do you think out of you? Do you know the story about the movie? Have you ever looked it up? The movie Gaslighting? He tries to make his wife look crazy. Okay, what about word salad? Do you know what that means? When what? You ask them a question? And how do they answer you? With confusion? What happens if you ask them again? More confusion? So when do they stop? I think that's building 2. Yeah, let me close my window. Let's see if it helps. We'll do a little test here. I'm in building 1. Remember that? Apartment 47? Let's test it. Alrighty, I'll close. Problem solved. Okay, back to word manipulation. That's from my website, my stuff. Word manipulation means when they're having a conversation with you, they're manipulating words, right? To confuse you. That's the confusion part. Word salad. It's the same thing, just said a different way, my way. Why is it funny? What do you think word manipulation means if you translate it? Manipulating words to do what? To do what? Make you believe them? Why would they need to manipulate words? Why can't they just have a conversation with you? Well, that's the same as loopholing you, right? They keep answering you with confusion over and over and over. They're just the same loophole until, like you said, which one? You give up? You get mad? You walk away? So control, they need control of the whole conversation, right? They always have to win. They always have to get their way. So far, everything making sense and connecting? Hopefully, right? Okay, let's go over flying monkeys. Everybody uses the same word, so you know what it means. That's why all the life coaches use the same thing, right? So you know what it means. The flying monkeys, if you've ever watched any videos, they reference The Wizard of Oz, right? The flying monkeys in the movie The Wizard of Oz. They work for the witches, right? They go fly around and do all her dirty work. So in real life, the flying monkeys for the narcissist are the ones who go and gossip and tell all the secrets and lies, right? That they're the ones the narcissist uses to go do his dirty work or her dirty work, so they never get caught. That's why they're called flying monkeys, because they're kind of the same thing. They just go out and do the evil. Well, 6 years, right? Well, if somebody told you the word narcissist, how did you know the difference? If somebody came and told you Bob is a narcissist, why did you believe them? Okay, we can go over control. If they were using it in reality all over Peel region, coercive control, right? That's what they were using. The difference is which one, in court or to go to jail? If you're talking about human trafficking, they took it to use for human trafficking. That's the actual police, right? So what were all those videos about coercive control? If it was a narcissist, they were trying, they didn't know which one. Well, you have to tell me which one, right? So coercive control is coercing you, right? Which means what? You don't know? You liked it? You went along with it? Which one? Yeah, we're separating. Why would we be separating? I told you my business is a narcissistic abuse recovery life coach. The police are separate, right? They did that, not me. You guys did that. So as I told you before, if victims come to me and they need to leave, they need to get away, I know what I have to do, right? I have to find them, just like I said, somewhere where they can go be safe. They're supposed to be homeless shelters. That's not my service. That's a service that's supposed to be offered in Peel region, right? So I know my job. So after they made all those videos on coercive control and they had the human trafficking line, what happened? I know what happened when I called. I went over this. So how did it help you? What happened when you called it? If there's supposed to be a real result, if there was a reason, which one? If there was a whole point to it? Well, I didn't make up 6 years just passed by, right? I was homeless in shelters in and out. So what were you using coercive control for? Renters? Landlords? Tenants? Or which one? Couples? Married couples? Had to be for something, right? Coercive control? What were you doing all that for? Well, you had in Brave. What was in Brave for? Victim services. Remember going over all of this? Why do you have these services? What do they do? When you call them, what are they supposed to do? Find you what? A house? Money? Yes, yes. Let's go over this so we can all catch up on the same page. Where I come in? Narcissistic abuse recovery life coach, where I come in. Why don't you go over mental health again and what they do for you? Until you figure out where I come in. It's getting kind of warm. I'm going to open back the window. Hopefully, there's no more outbursts of loud noises. Well, do you want to go over control? If you had a landlord? Sure, during COVID. What happened during COVID? A lot of people decided which one. They were entitled to which one? Stay in their house, not pay their rent because it was COVID and they didn't have money, they lost a job. That's kind of like entitlement, right? Remember grandiosity? You kept saying I have grandiosity. So do any of you know what that means now? Grandiosity? How about entitlement? I did post a video on entitlement if you watched it. So what do you think the difference is between entitlement and grandiosity? We can go over all of the different, if I can remember all of them. First, it was intimate partner violence. Was that it? No, it was domestic violence, right? Domestic violence. Then intimate partner violence. Violence against women. Gender-based violence. So which one are we working on now? Well, what's community safety and well-being? That includes mental health and safety? Okay, well, let's go over that one. Yeah, it does. Do you see this? It comes back to the same what? Let's help everybody understand. Do you want to go with the smear campaign again? Okay, let's hear. Why did Malton hate me? Why did they destroy my businesses? What did they know about me? Sure, 2019 when I opened the business, or when I moved back to Malton in 2023, or my whole life since I was born here in Malton in 1979. We can go over bullying, my experience in Malton. We can go over racism, my experience in Malton, or anywhere else now, right? Narcissistic abuse, which one? Not graduating high school? What I should be doing if I'm on ODSP with lifelong nausea? How many of you smoke? Why I smoke Mary Jane? And you have a problem if all of you smoke here in Malton? I was here when it legalized. Then I got my cancel. Do you know what a cancel is? That's a certificate to work in a store, a cannabis store, legally work there. That's the license you need, the certificate you need to work in a store. That's why when you see it, it says 2019. That's when I got mine. And then 2022, that was another one I got in 2022. It was legalized, right? We went over this. It was legalized in all over Canada, all the provinces, not like America, where they legalized it in one or two, right, places. We went over how lucky we are that all of Canada legalized it at once, not just one province like Ontario. So, back to narcissistic abuse. If I smoke it to eat, to not be nauseous, they still are going over this, right? Have you ever been nauseous and wanted to throw up? Can you control it? They don't understand. I have no control over when I get nauseous. You're actually sitting here like there's a schedule for it. In my life, ridiculous? Why did you all get medical marijuana prescriptions? What are you smoking it for? What does it do for you? Most ridiculous thing I've heard. You're getting the same exact thing. Tell me why you get it. For what? I know you just didn't say for PTSD, right? Let's go over the addicts. They were replacing one drug, right? With Mary Jane? Because who told them that was smart? Yeah, they're going to go over it. What were all the clinics for? Sure, 2019. Yeah, what were addictive substances? So what did you start smoking it for? That's my worry today, right? Oh, I am taking a good look. They who? What did she text my phone this morning? Let me check the time. Okay, let's go back to an easy one now. Right here in Malton, how many people do you know that you think are a narcissist? Whether you decided it yourself or somebody told you they were. Okay, include toxic while you're at it, because who knows? American Canada, right? Social media was all the same and mixed in together. You heard all about all kinds of stories, right? You're still telling me about Illuminati. So, if you go over power, money, and fame, what was Illuminati? Yes, if it's narcissistic abuse, you still questioning it? Why? You didn't see the P. Diddy trial? What do you think all of that was when I was posting it? You understand. You believe Illuminati is a secret society. Oh, that offs people. Like who, Aaliyah and Left Eye? Whitney Houston, Bobby Christina? I've been posting the actual autopsy results. Actually, from the autopsy, right? The actual records for a reason. Do you know why that is? Because it's the science? Because forensics is usually what happens? Where's the evidence? What's a good word for today? You're still working on the smear campaign? Well, let's go with the word life coach. Did any of you use a life coach or hire a life coach or hear of life coach in the past 6 years? What did they say they did? How much did they charge? Okay, what about other coaches? Did you use any other kinds of coaches? What were they? So if you remember, what were they selling you? Okay, so if there was an anxiety coach, what do you think they'd be selling you? An anxiety coach, if one ever existed. Ways to cope, ways to heal it, ways to get rid of it, things to do every day to deal with it, things to do instead of taking medication, the causes, where you got it from, how it started, which one, how to understand it, your anxiety. If you had anxiety and hired an anxiety coach, we went over, right, how to stop word salad and word manipulation. If a narcissist is word salading you and loopholing you, we all know the answer, right? Yes or no. You ask them for a yes or no. Well, if they keep doing it to gaslight you and aggravate and irritate you, why would you keep going with them? Why would you keep arguing back and forth with them? You know they're not going to stop, right? So why would you keep going? Well, why do you have any argument? Oh, to win. And how do you win? Oh, you destroy the other person? Now, does that sound good if you're in a relationship and that's your girlfriend or boyfriend or your wife or husband? You destroy them? Does that make common sense? Does that make any sense to you? Well, what do you think is going to happen the rest of the days you have to live with them? If to win the argument, you destroy them. That's your mindset, your mentality. Okay, let's go reality again. Do you ever think you would argue with your enemy? Have an argument with them if they were your enemy? So who do we have arguments with? So if you're having an argument with your parent, to destroy them. Now, if it's the parent having an argument with the child, to destroy them, that's the advice for everyone? You think that's going to work for everyone? To win the argument, I destroy it. Why there's war in the world? Probably. We'll say everybody in Malton had that mentality for 1 year. When I argue with it, I must destroy it. That was 2020? 2021? After they taught you inclusion? Same Malton, right? No? You just took all the people and put them somewhere else? You brought new people? What if they went to Brampton and they didn't like it and they came back? They spent a year in Brampton and they came back. What if they spent a year in Mississauga and came back? Well, if you go to college, how long do you go to college? 4 years? So what if you went to college and then you came back to Malton to live with your parents? Because they have a house. And food and laundry. You probably wouldn't charge your rent until, right? You'd show them your diploma. Say, look, I'm just trying to get my job, my big money job, right? Because I graduated college. Of course they're going to let you stay, right? No? They tell you the same thing? You go get a good job and big money, go get your own house. You had 4 years and you didn't prepare. Depends who you are. That is a good one. Two-faced doesn't apply, but it depends on who you are. I'm not religious. Did I mention that one? Why I don't follow religion? You have to believe in a religion, right? To follow it. You have to believe what it supports to follow a religion. Like the beliefs and values of the religion you support, like anything else in life. You have to stand behind it and support it, to vouch for it. What happens when people give up control of what? The bus schedule, hoping it comes on time? Getting to work on time? Bad things, I think. Give up control of going to work on time, getting the bus on time, going to school on time. How about opening the mall and the stores on time at 10 o'clock? Bad habits, right? Long-term effects, which one is it now? People to get dependent on a routine. Like what? Children get dependent on the routine of going to school. They have a set schedule. They know every day when they go to school and when they come home. That's a problem. How do the adults see that as a problem if they have the same thing at work? October 16th. We're about halfway through October. And what other topics are there? Concerning 6 years of confusion, if people were confusing you and calling the word toxic and narcissist all over the place. We're going over mental health. How many people right now do you know who have anxiety or suffer from depression? Okay, now is any of it from money? Let's eliminate that one if it's from money first. What affects your physical health? How do you think you get sick? When you get sick, what do you think happens? Your body stops working. It doesn't get enough what? Yeah, we're comparing it to mental health, your mind. Depression, anxiety, like you said, right? Those are things that happen when what? You can't take it anymore? You have too much what? Stress, pressure? So your body, physical health. When you have things like strokes and heart attacks, you pass out or faint. That's because the same thing, right? Your body doesn't have enough. It can't take, you're putting too much pressure on it. You're exerting it. Just like your mind, your mental health. That's when it gets sick, it cracks, it has problems. How do we prevent it? We don't do things our body and our minds can't do, right? We don't push them to do things we know we can't do. Well, the whole point of mental health is to keep your mind healthy, right? That's why when it's not healthy, you go to a mental health professional to get it healthy again. Normal? Isn't that mental health? What's normal then? So why you need mental health help? If mental health is your mind, your brain, if you overthink, you can't think straight. What do you think that is? In 15 minutes. I'm trying to cover as many as I can. Well, like I said, different people, different coaches use different words, right? Over 6 years. I know what I use and what I have. Not everyone uses the same thing. And then you're going to come and say I'm lying and I made it up and everything you've been doing for 6 years. Well, did you separate the difference between toxic and narcissist? What toxic covers? We know narcissist, NPD, narcissistic personality disorder. So what does toxic cover? When you had symptoms? When you didn't know the word narcissistic abuse? When you were just diagnosing their behavior? Well, toxic means what? It's bad for you, right? So if it was a relationship with, like we said, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a husband, a wife, a parent, a brother and sister, toxic is always bad, right? The result is probably usually to get away from it, not stay and live with it. And let's talk about freedom after. If you spend your life, say you were married to a husband or a wife who's controlling and always had control of all the money. Yeah, we did go over this. So say you're on your own now. You apply, you get a job, or you get government money. You're all on your own now. What's the first thing you would do? Would you move somewhere else? Would you stay in the same place? Depends where your job was. Would you get a job somewhere else where they weren't? Depends who you are, right? Your situation, what you can afford to do. That's why I said don't judge. You don't know anybody else's situation. Some people can't leave. Some people can't get a divorce. They won't let them get a divorce. They're talking about before people knew the word, right? Then 6 years when people knew the word. Then all the confusion, toxic and narcissist and whatever else you were telling people. So in 6 years, how many people do you think got married? And how many people do you think regret it now? Because people were using narcissistic abuse, one way or the other, for good or bad. Well, we saw a lot of violence, right? So if people were using gaslighting to get other people to do what? Get mad? Attack people? Which one? Well, gaslighting is only a bad result, right? Provoking people to get a reaction. It could only end badly. That's the only way it ends. So if the world was using it, what do you think was going to happen? You're annoying and aggravating people on purpose so they would attack other people or take it out on other people. So for 6 years, this is what the whole world was doing. Why people don't like people, why they don't talk, why, which one? You're teaching empathy, you're teaching compassion to people. They have to relearn what being human is. Which one? Why do people care about other people? Out of the goodness of their heart. And when did that turn bad? The goodness of their heart. You don't use other people and take advantage of them out of the goodness of your heart, right? You don't lie to people out of the goodness of your heart, do you? What about schools, high school and college, for the past 6 years? Were they using any of those? Control, word salad, gaslighting, if you think back to all the topics and situations when they were going through all the money, the strikes, the teachers, the whatever school boards, to get which one? Their way? How many different topics? Yeah, if you're in high school or college or if you remember. Well, during COVID, everyone had to do online learning, the kids. So how did they have access to online learning? They all had to have a computer to access online learning. When did they close the schools? How far into COVID before they closed the schools? A long time ago. Yeah, what was going to happen after COVID? If students lost a year, then what was going to happen long term? If that was grade 6, they lost grade 6. If that was grade 9, if that was grade 12, nothing was going to happen. The way you were questioning people, what's going to happen to all the kids then when they go to the next school and they ask them, how come you're that old? They're going to forget that COVID, they were off for a year. They all stayed up to date. Well, it depends. We're just thinking about Canada, right? Here in Malton, what were your options? If it made it worse, if it made it better? Okay, let's think about this. If all the kids in Malton went on the buses to go to college or university after high school, yeah, reality, which buses did they go on? To which one? Which schools? Yeah, I'm trying to get a good sense of 6 years, what happened. Well, there's the Go Bus now, right? The option if you go to university downtown. So what year were they all? If you think back to 2019, was there? How many Go Buses were there? Just the Malton? That went where? Where are all the universities? York University, U of T are all where? Downtown? Where are the colleges? Oh, let's expand. What about Brampton, Bramalea, Mississauga? I guess Peel Region if you want to. That's space, right? Where they're going to go. So how are they going to pay for it? It goes back to high school if they have to work during high school. Well, you guys were the ones planning their futures, right? And doing all that new curriculum. I can't help what I already know. I'm just asking questions. So if they're going to get jobs when, how are they going to pay for college? Well, if you're teaching, you did a new curriculum this year. You were teaching them financial skills, right? Budgeting, bank accounts, credit cards, getting credit cards, whatever you were teaching them about finances. So if they're leaving to go to college, how are they going to have all the funds? They're going to rely on food banks, food programs at the school. What's the priority? Go to high school or work? There are scholarships. There are funds for schooling to encourage children. Yeah, this is the point, right? 6 years. You keep what? You don't realize you're still in financial abuse and it's not getting better? Where the whole of Peel region, the whole of Malton? Well, why do you keep talking about competing? How do you think that works? If you have a mall and two stores are competing with each other, how do you think that's going to work? Instead of the two stores selling things for the mall, you're competing to destroy? And if both of you close down, what's going to happen? Okay, well, let's go back to Malton. The McDonald's and the Wendy's. What would happen if they were competing? If they started fighting and doing things to each other's customers and doing things to the food. Well, explain how that works then, how they get along and they're right next door to each other in Malton if you're the same people. Because I don't understand that either. That doesn't make sense at all. When? When they were telling you to support local. How many stores here are Canadian? Canadian made, right? So the grocery stores, did you go and check what was made in Canada and make sure you bought made in Canada? You just bought the name brand you wanted, Kraft Dinner. Why it's funny, I don't know. Were you talking about thriving, right? Canada Strong, remember all that you were going on about? What do you think that meant? Getting businesses back, right? So when the businesses are up and running, people can get jobs, employees can get jobs. And the more people, the more businesses open, the more jobs, the more people get jobs, the better off, right? The money starts flowing in Canada. Are we understanding that? That's what was happening before COVID, before you started closing everything shut down. So far, it was a nice, quiet live stream for once. Covered a few topics, actually, to do with narcissistic abuse. Maybe some people will get a better sense of what you've been doing to me. That's how you can associate it, right? Because you saw people doing it to me in my social media. It'd be a good start. All the commenters. You get to see the difference. When people stop doing what? That's the hour for today. Amy Seukeran, Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Life Coach, Canada. Hope you enjoyed the live stream, whether you were here or you watch it again later. On YouTube at Amy's Regal Life. Yeah, right here in Malton. Now they want to be included.